Leading at the half hour, over 80 world leaders have gathered in Paris to commemorate the centenary of the end of the First World War. Well, French President Emmanuel Macron invited them to the Paris Peace Forum, a conference on global governance where South Africa is being represented by Defence Minister Nosiwive Mpisa-Nqakula.
70 world leaders are gathered at the Arc de Triomphe, the tomb of the unknown soldier, including French President Emmanuel Macron, President Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin. We're hearing from Macron just at the moment. They gathered at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month when the guns fell silent across the Western Front a century ago. They've heard school children from around the world reading from letters that First World War soldiers sent home from the front, and Macron is now speaking to those assembled leaders. He's convened them, of course, not just to commemorate the war dead, but also to make a very contemporary and very explicit political point. The French President Macron believes that the international rules-based order, which was of course forged here in Paris out of the bloodshed of the First World War with the creation of the League of Nations, the precursor to the UN, is very much at risk at the moment. He's been touring battlefields this week and making explicit comparisons between now and the 1930s. He believes that we're living in the most fragile time for world peace since the 1930s, and he wants to make that message very clear to the assembled leaders. The question, of course, is whether or not they are listening. Emmanuel Macron is making a plea against nationalism to an avowedly nationalist American president, of course. Later this afternoon, those world leaders without Donald Trump will be joining Macron at the Paris Peace Forum, a forum for conflict, security and global governance that he's convened, in which he aims will become an annual event. Now he is trying to get across a very clear message that nationalism kills, that the international rules-based order is in danger, and that something must be done to protect it. But of course, many of the leaders gathered here today, like the Turkish President Erdogan, Russian President Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, don't share Macron's passion for multilateralism. They don't share his belief in that rules-based order. Trump, of course, has put it under threat, as Macron has said himself, by pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, or out of various trade agreements, out of a nuclear arrangement with Russia, for example. And Macron is hoping to salvage enough support to protect that rules-based order. But whether or not those gathered leaders at the Arc de Triomphe behind me now are listening to him is a different question.